If you have zero experience or it's been a really long time since you've picked up a crochet hook, this is the video for you. I'm going to show you how incredibly easy this is step by step. You do not need to follow a specific pattern, and you only need to understand one specific crochet stitch. You will need 6 rolls of the Bernat Blanket yarn, a 12mm crochet hook. I use 3 of the white vintage color and 3 balls of the gray color. Again, Bernat has a beautiful selection of all different colors, but I'm just going to show you exactly what I did with this particular blanket. To make this video very, very easy, I really would like to show you on a small little sample size so I can keep everything right within the camera, so I can show you right from the beginning exactly how I did this blanket. I'm looking forward to showing you in an upcoming video the moss stitch, which is another beginner friendly. But for this video, I'm going to show you how I did the half double crochet. And again, this is incredibly beginner friendly. I absolutely love this yarn. It's chenille and it's machine washable and dryable. So in this sample piece, I'm going to be using the Birch color. Again, this way I can keep it all on the camera so you can see exactly up close and personal exactly how to do this. So to get going, you're going to create a slip knot. Create a little circle, then pull the working yarn through, and now you have a little hole, which I'm going to call a loop. And you're going to have a tail and you're going to have a working yarn end, and that's what we're going to hold in the left hand in between my 2 fingers. So I'm going to take the crochet hook, I'm going to place it inside my first loop, and now I'm going to chain 10 loops. When I started the blanket, I chained 90, and that gave me the width of 4.5 feet. You can take a measuring tape and you can create any width. You do not need a certain number of stitches. But this we really want to pay attention to get everything started. So what I'm doing is I'm counting 10 loops. I am not including the one that's on the crochet hook. I really want to show you a small detail after your chain. Now that the chain has 10 loops, there will be a remainder loop on your crochet hook. The next step will be to create an additional loop on the previous loop, and this is the start of your half double crochet. You're going to yarn over and then you're going to count back to the 10th loop on your chain. I promise this will make sense going forward. So you'll always have 2 loops on your chain, then you're going to go back into that 10th chain, that 10th loop, wrap your hook around the working yarn, pull it through, and now you have 3 loops, pull the working yarn through, and now you've made a half double crochet. I'm going to walk you through this a few times. What we're doing is we're actually counting backwards on the chain of 10 that we started with. So we did the 10th, now we're going to go back on the chain and we're going to go into that 9th loop. So you always have a remainder loop on your hook. Then you wrap that working yarn around your crochet hook, then you're going to go back into the next chain. So I had a loop, I wrapped that working yarn around my crochet hook, so I have 2 loops. Now I'm going into the 7th chain, and again I'm making a half double crochet. Pull that working yarn through, you have 3 loops, pull that working yarn all through 3 loops. So now we have 3 half double crochets. As you can see, I always have a loop on my crochet hook. Now I'm going to continue to go back down the chain, wrap your working yarn so you have 2 loops, pick up the next loop, pull the working yarn through. Now I have 3 on my chain, grab the working yarn with your hook and pull through all 3 loops. Let's do that one more time. Crochet hook into the chain, I have 3 loops, pull the working yarn through. It's just a little bit of practice. As you can see, Gabriel is not practicing. Now that I've done the half double crochet, I'm going to show you in the last loop what we're going to do, and we're going to turn our work around. So I had a loop on my crochet hook. I wrapped the working yarn around. stick the crochet hook through the last chain, which is actually the slip knot, and pull the working yarn through all through loops, half double crochet. So now I have one loop on my hook. I'm going to chain one. And the reason I'm doing that is because that last loop in the chain one is actually going to be our next half double crochet. So now that we have these little V's at the top of our first row of half double crochets, this is where we're going to go in for our second row. And you can see that there's two little bumps or two little loops made from the half double crochet on the previous row. That's what we're going to be working into. So we started with the loop, which was our original loop. We chain one. Now we're creating with that original loop and the chain one, another half double crochet into the first portion of our second row. So again, where you see my finger is pointing, that's where we're going to be sticking the crochet hook into. And there's two little bumps at the top there. We're going into the top portion of our first row of half double crochets. If you haven't done this in a while, or you are brand new, I really encourage you to make a couple of rows just as I am right now, just with a chain of 10, and do a little practice. So again, we're going into that top area of the first row where my finger was, and we're creating our next row of half double crochets. Anytime I do a crochet, even if it's been a while, it's good practice just to do a few rows, and this will get you started and get you confident when you continue the whole project. So I'm going to continue down the row, the second row of double crochets, and I want to show you how to pick up that end, because the end, when you're dealing with a crochet project, the end when you first get started on your project, it kind of looks like it's off to the side a little bit. So I'm going to show you that in just a second. And I want you to be confident in what I'm explaining and visually, so this way you can make both sides of your project when you start your blanket, it will be nice and straight. So I want to complete my last two half double crochets. And as you can see, that end one is a little bit off to the side there, so it's really important to make sure you're picking that one up. So this is going to create a nice even border. So this is the last half double crochet of the second row. As you can see, it was a little bit off to the side there, but it is there. You're going to grab, you can see that there's two little loops, just like the ones we were doing before. And you're going to make sure that you're picking up that last half double crochet at the end. It's really easy to miss that because it's a little bit rounded. So we ended with a loop on our hook, I chained one, and now we've completed two rows. But it's just really important to pick up that last one, and again, this is going to create a nice solid flat border on both sides of your project. Again, I like to go back and count how many loops I'm doing. So if I started with 10, my first few rows, I just go back and just make sure that I'm not missing any of my stitches. So I'm going back and just counting that I still have 10 half double crochets. It's just something I like to do just to reconfirm that I still have my 10 original stitches. It's so easy because everything is very tight, just to confirm that you're not missing any of the stitches as you're climbing up your project. So I'm going into my third row of half double crochets, and I'm identifying the little V at the top of the second row. That's how easy this whole blanket project is. Those are the only key things you need to do to create this project. And again, you can start your chain however wide you want your project. So I'm just continuing into my third row of my half double crochets. This type of yarn is super thick and is going to stitch up very, very quickly. So this project really doesn't take a lot of time. Again, you're getting to the end. You just want to make sure you're picking up that end stitch, and this is going to create a nice straight border. So for my blanket, again, I started with 90 loops on my chain, and that gave me 4.5 feet in width for the blanket. Now to start the fourth row, you have a loop. Make sure you chain one with your working yarn, flip your work over, And now that original loop and chain 1 is part of the next row of your half double crochet. Finding that little V spot at the top of the previous row, stick your crochet hook through, grab the working yarn, pull through and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. And we're going to go all the way down doing our 4th row of half double crochets. And this is how easy this entire project is. It's just practicing the half double crochet. First, you're going to make the slip knot, create the chain length, the number of loops that you would like to make the width of your blanket, and practice the half double crochet. Once you get a couple of rows onto your project, even if it's the sample, you're going to notice that the end is not so curved out. It will start to straighten as you start getting a little bit of weight onto your project. But your first couple of rows, you may notice that it's a little bit on the curved side, but as we get into the 4th, 5th row, it will straighten out. But it's just really important to identify that last stitch, and again, this creates a nice even border all the way around your project. I'm also going to show you how I switched out from the vintage white to the gray in my project. So my blanket size was 54 inches wide and 72 inches long, and that worked out to about 4.5 feet wide and about 6 feet in length. The entire project stitches up so quickly. For 1 hour a day for maybe a week, you can have a beautiful throw. So you can start from say about 80 to 90. I believe I started with 90 loops, and then all my rows counted up for a total of 92 rows for the entire blanket. And again, I use 6 balls of the Bernat Blanket. Starting a new color, pretty easy. You're just going to wrap the new color. You're going to have a little bit of a tail. I have a loop on my crochet hook, and now I'm creating a new loop with the new color. So you're just going to leave the tail, and you can weave the tails into the blanket just with a tapestry needle. Wrap the working yarn with the new color and start a whole new row of half double crochets. You can just carry on as if you didn't even swap out the color, and I'm going to show you how I tied the 2 ends just for a little extra security. I just used up the entire skein of yarn before I started the next one, and I kept swapping out the colors, and that kind of gave me a little bit of a check pattern. I take the 2 ends just to secure it and just tie a little knot. You can either cut it or you can weave it into the blanket into the color. Once you've completed your last row of your project, you're going to have a remainder loop on your crochet hook. With the remainder yarn, pull it through that last loop and fasten with a knot. And you can either cut it or take a tapestry needle and weave it through the last row. I'm a beginner just like you, so I really encourage you to give this a try. If I can do it, I promise you can too. Thank you so much for joining me in this week's video. I look forward to seeing you again real soon. Take care.